Thanks, Elaine. In the last week, the United States imposed another round of sanctions on Russia because of the Ukraine crisis. It signed a 10-year defense agreement with the Philippines and publicly stated that the security treaty with Japan extends to disputed islands in the East China Sea. Both China and Russia have reacted strongly to these moves, and the U.S. relations between the countries are very different from where they were just a year ago. Joining us now with more on the current state of U.S. foreign policy is Nathan King. Nathan?
First, the Obama administration hit the so-called reset button on relations with Russia. Then the Sunnylands meeting between President Xi Jinping and Obama envisaged a new great power relationship. But now the US is increasing its military and diplomatic presence in both East and West simultaneously. Washington is worried about more potential threats as the US public grows more and more isolationist.
It was all meant to be so different. A new relationship built on mutual trust with Beijing and a less confrontational attitude with Moscow. From Iran to the DPRK, the US, China and Russia working together on some of the toughest global problems. The Ukraine crisis may have been the catalyst, but the seeds of recent US foreign policy choices may have been sown earlier.
There's kind of a weakness narrative that's become very prevalent, and people are blaming Obama. Some of it is when you're
seeing the US in retreat, coupled with a reticence to get involved, reassurances became required from Japan to the Philippines and from Poland to Israel. But as the US with China rapprochement in the 1970s proved, US foreign policy has traditionally been wary. The Soviet Union in the 1990s allowed US foreign policy to engage with both powers too. But Russia and China relations also led to a more shared common view of the sanctity of sovereignty and suspicions of US motives at least and beyond. With the US and NATO and US may grow.
I've heard that argument, and it's obviously not wise to take on two major powers at the same time. But I think, I'm not sure I see the relationship. I think for China, the United States is going to be much more important than Russia. And there's this continuing kind of duality to the relationship with China, part cooperative, part competitive.
And as the US moves to back up its allies, the US public seem to want to back away from international entanglements. A new poll of public opinion shows just 19% of Americans want a more active foreign policy. 47% want a less active one. Compare that to a similar poll in 2001 that saw 37% want more action and just 14% want less.
Washington is well aware that the US public wants to do less on the world stage. Although the US is deepening commitments in Asia and to some extent Europe, it is doing so with less. A few hundred troops here, rotating ships in and out of ports, not building new bases. The mantra across foreign policy establishment here, especially at a time of budget cuts, is doing more with less. Now, whether that policy will be enough to reassure allies and deter potential adversaries remains to be seen.